Danica Patrick. She reminds me a lot of great racers. They either love them or they hate them. And I've seen a lot of. I've taken a lot of polls lately. And it seems like it's always 70-30. We had Danica Patrick on Kenny Conversation. She literally blew away. She's up to 85,000 views, and that was an hour, 20-minute show. So either people come on because they hate her, which is a very strong word. I don't like the word hate. She's over 85,000 views in no time. So what is your take? Why is Danica Patrick so polarizing?
It's a great question. I just think anytime, I don't want to say she was the first, but she was kind of one of the first big time women drivers, obviously IndyCar, then NASCAR. She's basically the same age as me. I remember interviewing her years ago around Michigan International Speedway when she was in IndyCar. Look, I think whenever you're different, you're going to have people who are celebrating you, other people who are hating on you a little bit. I think there's also political ramifications to that, especially now. You can tell on her podcast, like she likes to get into these topics.
She
And you
likes
discuss this.
controversy.
And look, let's be real. Don't we all? Isn't that what's interesting about just content in general? I mean, she said some controversial things on your show, obviously about suing Andretti. She made some comments about Logano and Martin Truex Jr. and Denny Hamlin. But look, that's how she felt, and that's interesting. I think people want authentic folks, and I think ever since Danica started doing the podcast, like she understands this. This is interesting. This is what people want. You don't want to listen to a 90-minute podcast and it's boring. I mean, at least there should be two or three. Wow, man, did you hear what she said? And I feel like she gets that. She's interviewing Jordan Peterson and Tucker Carlson. That's kind of the world we live in. People want interesting, authentic topics, and I think she brings that.
And Charlie, I think she's a throwback from the past. She reminds me of my brother Rusty Wallace. Rusty's calmed down a lot now. He just wants to chill out. But my God, my brother Rusty, he'd say anything. He was so controversial. And now, I can't. I talked to Jeff Gordon. I can't get him to get William Byron to talk. I'm like, Jeff, William Byron he's our guy. He's winning all the races. He's got to talk. But people are so afraid now. They're locked down. I think Danica Patrick is a breath of fresh air. She's from the past, even though she's young. What is she, 42, maybe 40? She's 42. But what I like about Danica Patrick is she says what everybody's thinking. And then they all go, oh, my God, how dare you say what I'm thinking? You know you can't say that. But I wish the guys were more like Danica. But I mean, I'm saying she's polarizing. She says what she thinks, and then people respond. She's successful in everything she does. I agree with you, Charlie. I think that she's going places that everybody's afraid to go. And listen, all the male chauvinists out there, they're jealous. I don't care if she won a race on gas mileage or not. She run third in the Indy 500. She led laps. She won an IndyCar race. And Charlie, let me ask you a question. What kind of men are these that go, she only won on gas mileage? Are these insecure men?
100%. I was about ready to get to that part of it because we're talking about Danica, but again, I go through your comment section all the time. It can be Danica, and it's the same type of comments if it's about Haley Deegan, Natalie Decker, Tony Breidinger. We have her on the podcast that hasn't been released yet, but it's always, oh, she's a woman. The only reason she got the ride is she's a woman. Oh, just because she's a pretty face. And I'm like, what's wrong? What's wrong with that, by the way? Hey, you know this. There's a lot of dudes. I mean, there's not a lot of ugly NASCAR drivers, too. Marketing is a huge part of it. There's probably a lot of dude drivers who might have been tied with somebody else to get a ride. And they're like, hey, they're kind of the same. Let's pick the good looking guy. He can sell more product. And what's wrong with looking at a pretty lady? What's wrong with that?
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, there it is, everybody.